Hello, my friends. It's me again, Carpo. I wasn't sure how to address or title this video or even make it, so I just jumped right in and said I'm just gonna make it. I'm not one to ask for donations. I'm not one to, and that's not what I'm doing now. I'm not the kind of person who feels comfortable getting paid even for services I do render. Even as a carpenter or making jewelry or something. But it's difficult for me to acknowledge people who have helped me out in this world. I don't know why I have a hard time giving thanks. It's such a simple thing to do. I don't know if it's something from being caught up in my own insecurities about people thinking that people assume I'm asking for money. But I've had my YouTube channel for 13 years, 14 years now, and I've made over 5,000 videos. And in that time, the only way I've funded anything I've done has been Patreon. And I don't make that much, $100 on average, maybe a month. And that money goes towards helping build I use it to fund, like, it's like $20 a month to host my podcast, which I haven't even been using. Anybody who listens to my podcast knows it's like sporadic, and it'll be like 2 months before I upload something. The first 6 months of this year, I didn't upload anything. So I wanted to say, first off, I'm horrible about consistency. But that's why my channel has always been about doing it my way and doing things the way that I feel comfortable doing. There's something to be said about losing your lust and love for something once you get paid for it. Becoming a professional musician, carpenter, whatever it might be. And I really wanted to keep this neutral to the point where I could sit here and talk to you about anything I want without feeling like, oh God, I'm going to have my sponsors pull their funding. That's why I wanted it to be crowdfunded, and it's difficult to do. So I do have my Patreon, and I mention it once in a while, and I also have a donation through PayPal, like if you want to make a one time. But the patrons on Patreon are dedicated people, and I don't give acknowledgement enough to the patrons who have been with me for a long time. For example, Ronald Hess, if you're out there. Ronald Hess has been a patron since 2016. Holy shit. I didn't even realize. I mean, that's 8 years. Thank you, Ronald, if you're out there. And I want to acknowledge the patrons I have right now, because I know a lot of folks edit in a list of their patrons, and I've always wanted to do that, but I'm not organized enough and don't have an editing program. I should get one. I realize I used to have one where I could make videos and put things like that in there, but it does matter that you give credit to people. So I have 22 patrons right now, and I want to read them off and thank each, one of them. Ronald Hess. I'm starting from the oldest to the newest. Ronald Hess, Bill Hunt, Russell Imam, Rob Franzen, Seam Bob J. McBroderick, Highway Child, The Hill and Moon, Mumps, John Peterson, Deborah Chan, Matthew Langheim, Robin W. Wellbeing, Jared Freidenberg. Thank you, my friend. I don't even know what to say. I didn't realize somebody was donating $50. I'm shocked. I have not looked at the amounts. Anyway, Conrad A, Clay Burris, Dane, Eben Philibin, and where'd the rest of them go? You see what happens? Oh, here we go. It was loading. I have a computer that's like 8 years old, 10 years old, and it's just a crappy little notebook. But as I was going through, Michael Parento, Eben Philibin, Katmai, Harold Train, and then Dave Coors, who, when I just clicked on my Patreon, Dave Coors is contributing $50 a month. I couldn't believe it. And that's why I realized I have two $50 patrons. And I'm like, what? That's like most of what I make on Patreon. And to me, I don't know what to say to other than thank you so much. However, I did put that up as an option for personal discussions. And the reason I'm making this partly is to let people know, if you are a patron on Patreon, if you email me or message me, it's very hard for me to know who you are unless you remind me that you're a patron, and don't feel shy about that. If you have questions, it's hard for me to answer because I have a lot of different questions and emails and messages, and it's hard to identify screen names with the people who are patrons because different names. And even if people remind me, I do my best to remember, but it's hard to do. And so remind me, if you're a patron of mine and you want to ask some personal questions, things about whatever it might be, which I get a lot of, feel free. And anyone can email me at carpo420@gmail.com. I've always, I read every email, just like I read every message. But I also realize that there are folks who want to contribute to the channel, and I know not everyone does it for recognition. Most people don't. They do it because they want to contribute to a channel they like. And I can see a few bucks, but holy shit, $50 puts me in a weird position. Like, how do I thank you enough for that? If you can afford it, I think that's, to me, holy shit, that's a blessing, because that helps me out. Once in a while when the account's low and, you know, we're about to be overdrafted, I'll be like, oh, I've got some money in PayPal because I have to transfer my money from Patreon to PayPal before I can put it in my own account. And it's kind of a lifesaver if I save up for a few months and just have a few $100, because that does matter to me. Just a few $100. I'm not a rich guy. I'm a carpenter. My wife is a server. We do our best, but shit's expensive. You know how it is. So thank you all. Thank you to all the patrons. I didn't want to go on and on about this. Definitely not a plug for my Patreon. I want to make that clear. But it's hard to recognize those who have helped you without, somebody thinking, well, I feel guilty because I don't. If you can't afford it, it's not a big deal. It doesn't matter. I don't contribute to all the channels I watch. We do the best we can. But to me, it's hard for me to recognize that there are people out there who are willing to take the time to contribute to what I do, and I want to give back for that. So anyway, for my patrons on Patreon, if you go to my Patreon page at carpo719, I'm going to I just made a two-part video earlier because I ran out of space on my phone. I'll explain the story later, but my old crappy technology, I'm using my cell phone to record, not a professional camera. You know how it is. And I I'm gonna make that unlisted just for my patrons because I sometimes make videos that I don't make public, and I have a whole line of them. Most of the videos on my Patreon are videos that aren't available on YouTube, and I can upload directly to Patreon, but I don't. I just use YouTube, make it unlisted, and it's to give back, anything I can. I guess that's it. Thank you, and I'll talk to you all next time. Have yourselves a wonderful day, morning, evening, whatever it is. And I'll talk to you next time. I've got a few topics coming up that I want to share. Big surprise. Peace out.